Hi, everybody. Welcome to our show. This is English Digest, and I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And today is our all-English lecture, which means we're going to be talking mostly in English, but that's not really fair because English has a lot of borrowed words from other languages, you know? So if we use those words, are we technically speaking English or something else? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But in any case, it's our people unit today, and we're going to be talking about a basketball player who just retired last year, giant in the game of basketball by the name of Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, Kobe finally retired. It feels weird that he's gone to me. Because he was around, during my heyday. Heyday just means you're a good time in your life, right? Your heyday. So he's finally gone. Unfortunately, towards the end of his career, he had some injuries that made it difficult for him to play. And I think he got tired of fighting his body.
Yeah.
So he retired.
That could happen, yeah.
Kind of young, actually.
Well, he actually started when he was really young as well. We're going to be talking about some of his amazing feats in the game of basketball. So again, in today's all-English lecture, we are talking about Kobe Bryant. We're saying goodbye to a legend. And let's get to it, everybody. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson for today, and then we'll talk about it.
Legendary basketball superstar Kobe Bryant retired last April after dominating the NBA for 20 years. During his illustrious career with the Los Angeles Lakers, the Black Mamba drew comparisons to the great Michael Jordan and is widely considered one of the greatest players in the league's history. Bryant was surrounded by an air of anticipation from the start. When at age 17, he became the first guard ever to be drafted out of high school. Although he showed flashes of brilliance in his rookie season, his coach played him sparingly, so he would have time to adjust to the more physical NBA game. A year later, his minutes increased, and he became the youngest player to start in an all-star game. From then on, Bryant reigned supreme on the court and grew to be the face of the league. Playing alongside center Shaquille O'Neal, Bryant brought home 3 consecutive championships from 1999 to 2001. Bryant then represented his country in the Summer Olympics in 2008 and 2012. In both events, his inspired play helped lead the U.S. to win gold medals. However, like with all great athletes, time eventually caught up with Bryant. He suffered a season-ending injury in 2013 when he tore his Achilles tendon during a game. Although Bryant tried to make a comeback, he was never the same player. In his final game, though, Bryant turned back the clock and scored 60 points against the Utah Jazz. After the game, an emotional Bryant addressed the home crowd one last time. He thanked Lakers fans for sticking by the team during the rough times and told them they would always be in his heart. Although Bryant may have retired from professional basketball, anyone who saw him play will never forget his incredible talent on the court.
Okay, everybody, we're talking about Kobe Bryant today. We are saying goodbye to a legend, or at least we did last year. He retired last year, but he's still pretty famous, and he's still worth talking about. So let's talk about this completely in English. And the first paragraph says, legendary basketball superstar Kobe Bryant retired last April after dominating the NBA for 20 years. Now, we are describing Kobe Bryant as being legendary, which means it has to do with a legend, which is somebody famous because of something really fantastic they did at an earlier time.
Right. So he is legendary. People will be talking about him for years and years to come. We're still talking about Michael Jordan, and he was also a legendary basketball superstar.
And sometimes we talk about Wilt Chamberlain, too. He's pretty legendary as well.
Yeah. really tall guy. I think he played in the 70s. Is that right?
Yeah, we're going way back there. But of course, my point is that the NBA has been around for a long time.
Yes.
And notice the NBA, that stands for the National Basketball Association, the top league of basketball in the world.
That's right. Well, if you dominate something, it means you have a lot of power and you're more powerful than the people around you. You can dominate a conversation by not letting anybody else talk. You just keep talking. So he dominated the NBA for 20 years. Now, during his illustrious career with the LA Lakers or Los Angeles Lakers, the Black Mamba, that's his nickname, drew comparisons to the great Michael Jordan and is widely considered one of the greatest players in the league's history. Let's take a look at this illustrious. If you have an illustrious career, you have a career or you've done something that it's well known. You've gotten a lot of respect for what you've done. A lot of people admire you. He's had a pretty awesome career. Now, Black Mamba, I had to look up Mamba. I would say Mamba. It's actually a snake and it's pretty agile and able to be really flexible. And if you watched Kobe play, he could really bend and twist his body very easily.
And snake around players and stuff and get to the basket and score points and stuff like that. And of course, we all know about the great Michael Jordan. So he drew comparisons too, which means people compared him to Michael Jordan. And lots of people consider Michael Jordan to be one of the greatest players in the league's history. Here we have the word league, even though we refer to the NBA as the National Basketball Association, but still, it's a league, an organization of different teams who play a series of games during the regular season, and then they have a championship at the end of the season. In the NBA's case, it's in May and June.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think, Tom, here, they're referring to he's widely considered one of the greatest players in the league's history. That's Kobe, not Michael Jordan.
Oh, well, Michael Jordan is considered one of the greatest players as well. In fact, I think
he's the greatest.
You think Michael Jordan's the greatest?
Totally.
Yeah, probably. He got, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Well, he won 6 titles.
He's a big man indeed. And he was actually in Taiwan once, about 5-6 years ago or something.
Playing golf?
No, he came for a visit, but I guess it was kind of controversial because he didn't speak for very long and people were sad about that. But
that's too bad.
Anyway, that's past history. Now, let's talk some more about Kobe Bryant, the man of the hour. Bryant was surrounded by an air of anticipation from the start. So an air, that's like an atmosphere or a feeling of anticipation. Anticipation means you know something big is going to happen, but you got to wait for it. You're anticipating something. You're excited about something that's about to happen.
Right. There was a lot of anticipation around him from the start because he had done so well in high school that he was already famous. The basketball world all knew who he was. What's really unusual about Kobe, though, that he actually was the youngest person ever to be drafted into the NBA. They drafted him out of high school. Usually, these players are drafted out of college. So he was 17 when he became a guard. He was the first guard ever to be drafted out of high school. There are different positions on a basketball team. Most of you know there are 2 guards, 2 forwards, and then the center is the tall guy under the basket.
The one who scores the most points. So I guess they thought that defense was his forte, his special skill here. But also, he was drafted when he was just 17. Most basketball players in the U.S. will go to college first. But he went straight from high school to the NBA, so he didn't even get to go to North Carolina or Duke. He just went straight to the big game.
Yeah. There are 2 guards. There is the off guard and the point guard. The point guard is the one who dribbles and passes the ball around. If you're an off guard, you're known for your scoring ability, and he was known for his scoring ability. So he showed flashes of brilliance in his rookie season, although his coach really didn't let him play too much. It said here his coach played him him sparingly, which means not very much. Brilliance just means you show a lot of talent. So he was pretty amazing in his rookie season. If you follow sports, athletes who are playing for the first time in a professional game or a professional league, they're called rookies. And once they've been there for a while, they're veterans, we call them. So he didn't get to play a lot his rookie season. His coach wanted him to have some time to adjust to the more physical NBA game. Those guys in the NBA, they're big. They have lots of muscles and they can thump you. He wanted to kind of protect his little 17-year-old when he first got in. If you adjust to something, you change so you fit a situation a little better. If you go on an airplane, you might want to adjust your seat. It can go back or move forward. Well, he needed time to adjust to those big players who wanted to hurt him.
Absolutely. You could also say to get used to the more physical NBA game. Yes, indeed, they do call fouls when people bump into each other, but not all the time. So, again, you got to get used to bumping into other players and things like that and not having fouls called. So, yes, he was used sparingly, not so often. Maybe a couple of minutes a game here, a couple of minutes a game there, and gradually he got to be played more and more. And a year later, his minutes increased. Here, minutes refers to the amount of minutes or the amount of time that he was playing in a game. And then he became the youngest player to start in an all-star game, which is a game that's played, mid-season, right in the middle of the season. And they get the best players. I guess people vote on who they want to be in the all-star game. And it's a big festival. And I guess he was the youngest one to play in an all-star game to start.
Yeah, lots of fans will go online and vote for their favorite athletes. Of course, a lot of people who didn't live in LA or hadn't seen him play wanted to see him in the All-Star game so they could see what all the talk was about. So he's a pretty young player to be in an all-star game at 18. From then on, Bryant reigned supreme on the court and grew to be the face of the league. To reign is usually used to talk about a king or a queen being in charge or ruling over their people for a while. You can also say an athlete is the reigning champion. If you ever hear that phrase, know that we're not saying rain like water coming from the sky. It's pronounced the same way, but it's spelled R-E-I-G-N, to reign. So he reigned supreme. He was considered to be pretty much the premier player in the whole NBA. And he grew to be the face of the league. How are you the face of the league? Oftentimes, a sporting group, say the MLB, baseball, Derek Jeter was the face of the league. He was somebody that the league always looked to set an example. People thought of him as being a good representative. Well, Kobe Bryant was a good representative of the NBA.
Right. Probably the most famous player, the most recognizable face of the league. And who would it be now, do you think? Who's like the face of the league now?
LeBron James.
LeBron James,
yeah.
Okay, for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Who's that guy who made all the baskets from the Golden State Warriors last year? Somebody Curry or something?
Yeah, Stephen Curry.
But I guess he's still kind of too young and unknown to be the face of the league.
He's very popular.
He is, but the other guy you just mentioned, I can't remember his name.
Oh, he's a big deal. He's a big guy. Yeah.
He's been around for many years, and he used to play for the Miami Heat and had a couple of championships, and so he's much more well-known. But in any case, at the time, Kobe Bryant was the face of the league.
Yeah.
And playing alongside center Shaquille O'Neal, Bryant brought home 3 consecutive championships from 1999 to 2001. So Shaquille O'Neal is another big powerhouse in the NBA.
Shaq.
Is he still playing? Or
No.
He retired?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
he's a big fella, and they both played for the Lakers. And yes, they kind of had a dynasty there in the late 90s and the early 2000s.
Yeah.
They won 3 consecutive NBA championships, which means they won the tournament at the end of the year, hoisting that big trophy with the golden basketball on top of it.
Yeah, if it's consecutive, guys, it just means it follows one after another. So they won in 1999, 2000, and again in 2001. That's hard to do, but they had a pretty tough team. I remember because my favorite team happens to be the Phoenix Suns because I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. And I hated the Lakers because they keep beating us. They kept beating us and we couldn't get into the championship.
Oh, no.
So they were pretty amazing. Shaq, yeah, we call him Shaq. Shaquille is a different kind of name. It's a French name. I think he's from the New Orleans area, if I'm not mistaken. But Shaq was pretty fun, big guy.
He was and he still is, and Kobe Bryant will still be around for some time to come, but he won't be on the court. He'll probably be commenting on games and stuff like that.
Maybe, yeah.
But in any case, that brings us to the midway point. We're going to take a break right now, but please stay tuned. We'll be right back. We shall now continue with today's lesson. It's our all-English lecture, and we're talking about Kobe Bryant. And we are saying goodbye to a legend. At least we did last year. Remember, he retired in April of last year. The Lakers have been doing pretty awful in the last couple of years. But before that, I think in the mid-2000s there, or the early 2010s, they had won a couple of championships as well. So the Lakers, they're probably not doing so well now, but they will come back. It kind of depends on what kind of players they draft and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. Now, one of the things that Kobe Bryant was able to do was he represented his country in the Summer Olympics in 2008 and 2012. You can also say 2012, but most of us who are Americans at least say 2012. It's faster. If you get to represent your country in the Olympics, it's a great honor. And because those NBA players are professional, they're darn good. So the team that the U.S. sent to the Olympics was always pretty good. And I don't think that having Kobe Bryant's a bad thing at all. In fact, he inspired his team to go on to win gold medals. If you have inspired play, it just means you're almost like in a trance. You're just so amazing that you can do just about anything you want to. His inspired play. And he helped his country go on to win those gold medals. It wasn't really much of a competition because the NBA has such good players.
Right, and usually the American team wins because the Olympics allowed professional athletes to compete at a certain point, which kind of makes the basketball competition kind of lopsided because the Americans almost always win. But
it's not really fair, is it?
But they did lose one time. I can't remember when it was.
They didn't try very hard. They thought they were going to go and just waltz in, which just means no effort, go in and get the gold medal, and they didn't.
They were resting on their laurels too much, so they were taught a lesson. So I think they needed that lesson. Now they play with much more heart every time they compete. So again, he has this inspired play. They won U.S. gold medals because of him. However, like with all great athletes, time eventually caught up with Bryant. This is a verb phrase here, to catch up with someone. That means somebody or something is behind you, usually in some kind of competition, and then they actually are at the same position as you. They catch up with you. And in this case, of course, as you know, we all get older and we get weaker. And so eventually he just got too old to play anymore. The rookies were coming in and making him look bad and stuff. He looked like an old man humping it back and forth down the court there for 48 minutes. And he was taking longer to recover and stuff like that. So yes, indeed, time caught up with Bryant.
You can also use this phrase to talk about schoolwork. Maybe you're out sick for a couple of weeks, and when you go back to class, you have to catch up with the rest of the class because you're way behind. You've fallen behind. So, unfortunately, like all athletes, time does have a way of making them more mortal. They seem to be superheroes when they're at their best, their finest. I hate to see the athletes get old. It always makes me feel sad because, we love to follow them and see their accomplishments. But at some point, we all get older, and they do too.
And in the next sentence here, it says he suffered a season-ending injury in 2013 when he tore his Achilles tendon during a game. So this happened when he tore that tendon. Okay, that was a result of that. Because he tore his Achilles tendon, he, as a result, could no longer play. It was a season-ending injury, which means he was out for the rest of the season. He could not play any more games, let alone in the playoffs. And your Achilles tendon, that's the tendon on the back of your foot, which is your Achilles heel, basically. Achilles was that Roman or Greek, a god who got hit? Greek, okay. That was his weak spot, basically.
Yeah, when he was a baby, the story goes that his mom held him by the heel and dipped him into this river that made him very, very strong. It made him actually invulnerable to attack. But that little part that she was holding in her hand, his heel, never went into that river. So that was his weak point, you could say. But we call that tendon that connects the bone into the muscle, the Achilles tendon. That often is an injury that dancers have too, dancers and athletes. It's a terrible injury.
And if you tear your Achilles tendon, you're probably not going to be playing golf very well either, or doing all sorts of things. And although Bryant tried to make a comeback, he was never quite the same player. So yes, indeed, we talk about making a comeback because if you have a setback, like Tiger Woods is always trying to make a comeback, but he always fails. He kind of fell from grace a couple years ago when he had all those affairs.
Yeah, but I think he just won something big last year.
Oh, he did? Okay. Yeah. Well, then maybe he is making a comeback. Maybe. I don't really follow sports that much.
Our bodies get old, though, and he has a bad back, so it's hard for him.
Okay, well, that's Tiger Woods. We're talking about Kobe Bryant, and he did suffer a torn Achilles tendon during a game. So he tried to make a comeback, but didn't quite work out. And in his final game, though, Bryant turned back the clock and scored 60 points against the Utah Jazz. That's a team in Salt Lake City, Utah. They used to be in New Orleans. Hence, they were called the Jazz then, but they moved back north up to Salt Lake City there, and they kept the name. But they used to be pretty good. They played against the Bulls in the 90s or the 2000s or something like that. They were never able to beat the Bulls. That was during Michael Jordan's reign. But I guess at this time, the Utah Jazz must have been pretty terrible to allow Kobe Bryant to score 60 points against them. That is quite an achievement.
Yeah, I remember reading about this in the paper. I thought they had made a typo, maybe. 60 points. I was like, wow, that's old Kobe. What's going on? It was kind of cool, though, on his way out to have such a great game. If you turn back the clock, guys, it just means it's almost like you're young again. You know, you're in your youth. I think we'd all like to turn back the clock every once in a while and experience Christmas like a child. Or for me, I'd like to go back to college. Those were great times for me. So turn back the clock. He was able to play as if he was 17 or 18 again and score all those points. Now, after the game, we have an emotional Bryant who addressed the home crowd one last time. If you're emotional, it means your emotions are getting the better of you. You're probably a little bit near tears. Maybe he even cried a little. I've seen some athletes who have retired, like Alex
Trebek, the guy who hosts Jeopardy.
No, A-Rod. Alex Rodriguez, when he retired, I was shocked that he cried at his press conference. These athletes have devoted so much of their lives to this game they play. And Bryant was emotional as well as he talked to the home crowd one last time. If you address someone, it just means you're speaking to them.
Yes, tears welled up in his eyes. He got all choked up. He was very emotional. And he was, I'm going to miss you all so much. He was very emotional as he spoke to them one last time. And he thanked Lakers fans for sticking by the team during the rough times and told them they would always be in his heart. So yes, indeed, lots of people like the Lakers because because they often win, okay? These are fair weather fans, and there are a lot of Yankees fans who are like that because the Yankees often win. But it is those fans that stick with them through thick and thin.
Those are the die-hard fans.
The die-hard fans, because they know they'll win eventually anyway. But he thanked them for sticking by the team. Sticking by means you continue to support them. In this particular case, when the Lakers were doing really lousy, when they were the last place team and nobody wanted to be traded to the Lakers, etc. And even Jeremy Lin couldn't help them. What was it, last year or the year before? He no longer plays for the Lakers. They stink now.
It's hard when your team goes downhill. I know. My Yankees aren't very good right now, and it's hard to watch them, I must say. But if you're a true fan, you're a die-hard fan, you'll die for your team, die-hard fan. You'll stick with them. You won't give up on them. You won't pick a different team just because you want to win. There are some really good fans out there who will stick by their teams no matter what. But he told them, he appreciated them, remaining with them, remaining loyal to them even during the rough times, and that the fans would always be in his heart. It's going to be interesting to see what he goes on to do, actually.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of commentary jobs that you can do. We don't know if he's good at it either. It's not easy to commentate, which means you sit and you watch the game and you give your impressions and your interpretation of plays that you just saw. He might be a commentator.
Or he might go on to own a team or something.
He could.
Or
He's
maybe
probably
he could coach.
Quite wealthy. He could coach, maybe. That's a tough gig, though. I don't know if he'd want to coach. Now, although Bryant may have retired from professional basketball, anyone who saw him play will never forget his incredible talent on the court. Incredible means really just hard to believe. Hard to believe you're looking at what you're looking at. I bought a ticket not because I liked Kobe Bryant, but I did want to see how good he was. So when he came into town and played my Phoenix Suns, I would definitely try to go and see. He's a pretty amazing player, but I have to say my favorite's still Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, okay. Well, I guess everybody here in Taiwan's favorite basketball player is probably Lin Shuhao.
Yeah.
Jeremy Lin, of course, his ancestry comes from Taiwan, so why not? But in any case, Bryant, did he play his entire career for the Lakers?
Yes.
He did. Okay, so it's kind of rare that players do that.
It is.
They often get traded around quite frequently. And it's also kind of interesting that the Los Angeles Lakers are called the Lakers because Los Angeles is kind of in the middle of a desert, and there's only one big lake there, and it's not really a lake, it's an ocean, the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
But, well, you might not know the story, but the Lakers started off in Minneapolis, Minnesota, as the Minneapolis Lakers, and then they moved to Los Angeles. Of course, Minnesota is famous because of the thousands of lakes in Minnesota, 10,000 lakes, or probably more.
Yeah, but you never hear about the Minnesota Lakers winning anything. So when they went to L.A., that they really got their streak of success. They've had a lot of championship years.
Indeed.
Okay, guys, so we hope you learned a lot listening to us speak only in English, no Chinese teacher. And it's a good idea to just take an extra look at some of these vocabulary words, get them in your mind so you don't forget them and have to relearn them again. We hope you'll join us again soon. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.